Welcome to Out of the Office. I'm your host, Em Portner, bringing you ideas for your next out of the office adventure. On this month's episode, we're joined by Roanoke-based cyclist Gordon Wadsworth and John Oney from Visit Virginia's Blue Ridge, and we're talking about the upcoming USA cycling events. Welcome, guys.
Thanks, Em.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Stoked to be here.
Yeah. So, Gordon, you're an 8-time national championship mountain bike racer who lives right here in the Roanoke region. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself and your cycling background?
Yeah, totally. So I was born here in Roanoke, Virginia. I started racing about early 2000s, worked in local bike shops and got into it through friends and some family, and found that was the thing I enjoyed doing the most. So life from there kind of evolved into work in the bike industry. I race competitively, and my wife and I do 2 gravel cycling events here, one in Floyd and one in Craig County. So yeah, it's a little bit of all bikes all the time for me. But Roanoke is home. And we chose Roanoke at one point because it's such an awesome outdoors community, and there's so many incredible ways to experience the outdoors and community. Yeah.
Yeah. And John, you work for Visit VBR as the Vice President of Sports and Sales. Can you tell everyone what that means and your involvement with getting the races here to Roanoke?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah. Really, I'm charged with putting together strategies for sports tourism to recruit events to our area that bring economic impact, overnight stays, and really promote the region in general. So. This one was a no-brainer, right? Mountain biking, kind of our thing. And so kind of got involved early on, just kind of, thinking about cycling events when I came in 2021 and reached out to USA Cycling and really wanted a mountain bike event. And instead we got 2 amateur road national championships. And so we didn't quite get the mountain bike events that we wanted, but we really were happy with those 2 events. And that's kind of what springboarded us into mountain biking. So it's been kind of a process, and, we couldn't do any of this without our community partners. So, yeah.
John, are you a cyclist yourself?
Yeah, that's the funny thing. I'm not a cyclist.
We're working on him every single day.
I love that Midwest. Yeah, no.
It's been interesting. A very welcoming community of cyclists, really teaching me, what I needed to know. But this event is not unlike many of the other events we've hosted in the past, like Ironman, some of the large multi-jurisdictional events where you need to know certain things and you need to have a great team. And that's really what we've put together here for that. And the cycling community, Gordon, Whit Ellerman at Cardinal Bikes, those guys have kind of guided me through this process. So it's
friends in
easy.
Low places.
Yeah.
Like the country song.
And we love those friends in low places, but it's been awesome. So yeah, not a cyclist. They keep trying to get me on one. I think I'm going to wait until after this race.
Yeah. So I guess all the fun questions will be for Gordon.
Maybe so, yeah.
So where is your favorite place to bike? Ever?
We are really spoiled for choice here. I've been really lucky and blessed to race my bike on 5 continents all over the world and see some really cool stuff. I mean, from the Serengeti and parts of Tanzania, or the South Island of New Zealand, or Brazil, or Croatia, or all these amazing places. And you really can't pick a favorite, because that does a disservice to all of them in their awesome ways. The Roanoke Valley really is special to me because of this breadth of different types of riding that we have. So all time, I mean, really, it's home, and I'm really blessed to be able to say that. Yeah.
So is there a specific trail in Roanoke that you find yourself coming back to more than others?
They are all really fantastic. I tend to favor backcountry style riding, so older, narrower, chunkier, rockier trail, and we have that with places like Dragon's Back, and we have it in Arcadia with trails like Cornelius Creek. But then we also have super approachable trails, Little Bell and Enchanted Forest at Carvins Cove, and we're building newer trail all the time. The new trail on Mill Mountain that should be unveiled soon is fantastic. I'm a sucker for the trail that we built at Explorer Park for this race. It really is a crowd pleaser. So I'm going to go with that one for right now.
Yeah, we love the Explorer Park answer.
Yep.
So what makes the trails in Roanoke different from other places?
Yeah, it's a great question. We do have this awesome breadth or spectrum of trail. We have newer built flow trail, things like Rock and Roll Trail at Carvins Cove, just flow city. You just pedal a few steps and let gravity do the work. And then we have really technical, gnarlier trail like Rattle and Run on the other side of the spectrum in the same park at Carvins Cove. We really have this awesome variation. I think that makes us really special. Not to mention the 1,000 miles of trails, greenways, and shared space. Like that's pretty radical. And I have loved seeing in the past 20-something years Roanoke, with the construction of the first few miles of greenway, now to this massive greenway system that stretches from one side of the valley to the next. I love that, and I think that's part of what makes us really special is options.
Yeah, and it's nice that the greenways, they've done a lot of them, and they're still working on finding ways to expand. And like they're never resting, like the Mill Mountain. Like Mill Mountain has had greenways on it for years, and they're like, let's put another one, and they did. And
you can get ice cream at least 3 locations on the greenway. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, I am as well. You kind of touched on this in the beginning, but how did you get into competitive riding? Like, how did you decide to take that step?
Yeah, it found me. I found it a little bit. I really started putting my nose to that grindstone in college. I went to Hampton-Sydney College outside of Richmond, and kind of knew I wanted to ride a bunch, but was invited to join a team. Then it was the Gary Fisher racing team, which was rolled into Trek factory racing, and from there I kind of created a privateer program for myself that I could pick which sponsors I wanted and build a budget that was just mine to use, and that's been a lot of fun. That path has been as varied as like you said, national championships and really focusing on single A races throughout the year, as well as just kind of building this versatile fitness that's allowed me to do all kinds of cool things. And as I get a little bit older, it's been really fun to transition that knowledge and experience about like what makes a really great event, what makes a great rider experience, what needs to be delivered from the racer's perspective, and how do you as race presenter or promoter kind of put all those pieces together, right? So you kind of got 3 pieces of that pie, and I've loved transitioning to that. And when I had the opportunity to help John and Whit and the VBR crew kind of put this thing on the table and make those bids to present it to USA Cycling, it was a really fun experience, and it continues to be really fun and rewarding. Yeah.
So what advice would you have for someone who is thinking about getting into competitive riding? Yeah,
I would say lean into your local bike shops. There are events like the National Championship, which are kind of up here, right?
Yeah.
But there are also really awesome local and regional events. I mean, we put some on here in the Roanoke Valley. We have others in Bedford and Roanoke County and all these other areas around us that we have these cool experiences that are very approachable. I mean, you can pay $30, you can race your bike in the morning and have lunch and then like hang out in the creek. Like, that's a pretty good day. And local bike shops are often the first to know about that sort of thing. And so I would say lean into your local bike shops. We have Cardinal Bikes as 2 locations, Just the Right Gear, Good Time Cyclery, Roanoke Mountain Adventures, and Trek also have a store here. Like we're pretty spoiled for that too. So go in and trust me, they love talking about bikes.
Yeah.
Chat with them about what, where you could do that thing called mountain biking.
Yeah, so the events that are going to be here in July, there's 3 different events: the marathon, the short track, and the cross country. Yeah. What's the difference between those? Short track, I kind of have a guess, but what's the difference between those 3 events?
Short track, great question. So they really vary on distance and time of racing. XCO, or cross country Olympic is where the O comes from, is kind of what we think of as mountain bike racing. It might be a couple mile track with varied features, and that's really kind of the way we do mountain bike racing here. But in addition to that, you have a much shorter format. Short track is a 15 or 20 minute race. In our case, it's a 1K track. We're really excited to have that at Elmwood Park. It's a semi-urban environment, which is a little bit unusual, but very exciting. Yeah. So those are much shorter, more tactical races than cross-country Olympic is. And then marathon is generally going to be a longer course. So in our case, it's 40 or 54 miles, 54 for professionals and 40 for amateurs. And those are usually in the 3-ish hour range. But marathon can be 100K, it can be 60 or 70 miles in some cases. It depends on the location. And all those ask something slightly different from the athlete. You might be all fast twitch, really tactical, like just full gas for 20 minutes and that's your thing. Or it could be you're a little more tactical tactical and you want a little bit longer race, or even just as much as you want to see more right, in your race than the same loop time and time again. So it's exciting to be able to sort of smush all of that into one awesome week here.
Yeah. So, John, you kind of mentioned that 2021 date. So when did the conversation start happening to bring these races here this year?
Yeah, right after we hosted the last Amateur Road National Championships, I think that was the natural progression for us, is to host something a little bit larger and a little bit more in the woods kind of thing. And we knew there were some really good opportunities with what's happening at Explore Park, and how Carvins Cove kind of sits where it's at, and just being that destination that can host all three. And so I think this is the first time in a very, very long time, if not the first time, that they're kind of doing all three of these championships in 1 week. And so the competition was pretty stiff. We were up against three very, very strong destinations across the country. And again, you can hear it just in his voice and the way he's talking about how important it is to have someone local who can help storytell and get that in the bid packet, so we can approach the rights holders on that. So it was really early. I think we learned that we won the bid about just over a year ago.
Okay.
And so we had about a year to continue planning. So again, stoked about this opportunity, but really it comes down to who's in the community that can really spearhead it. And Gordon's been very successful at that, both on a racing perspective, but also as an event planner as well.
Yeah, they said a couple times in various press conferences and things that these events haven't been held in the same place since 2015. So were you going in like all three events, we want to host all three, or was that like, tousled during the conversations?
We'll take it all. I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Don't even mess around.
Let's do it all. We might as well. I think when we first started thinking about it, it was just one event, and I think it was marathon, and we knew we could do something like that. It was just it's a one-day event, but I think the more that we had folks from USA Cycling in our market to see really what's happening here. It's not until you get here in our destination that you can kind of feel and see what's happening. And so once they saw that, and they saw the three different venues that were all very unique but can be bolted together in a really cool way, I think that's where they started thinking about that. So that's when the bid process started. And again, when we had those people come visit, I was not on a bike out on those trails. It was my friend Gordon who said, yes, I will do that.
Yeah.
And so really got them out on the course to see what it looks like. Yeah. So, it truly takes a village.
So instead of wined and dine, you biked and brewed them.
That's the one. I like that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Go with that.
Yeah, I think one of the underrated things about Roanoke specifically is you have these three locations, Elmwood Park, Explore Park, and Carvins Cove, that aren't that far from each other.
Yeah.
Like Elmwood, Explore Park's maybe 15 minutes from Elmwood Park. It's really not as far as people think. And then Carvins Cove's, 15, maybe 20 minutes the other direction.
Just
and
the other
so
side of the valley.
Yeah, so it's all very close. And I feel like, if you other locations to get those sorts of trails, you might have to go further out.
You would, yeah. We're, I think, really unique in that perspective among places that could host any one of these events. We kind of have awesome venues for all three, and it's been fun to plan them out that way.
Yeah, it's exciting when you say that. It's exciting because this event's going to last, and it's going to live a lot longer than just that week long. And so one of the things we talk about all the time internally when it comes to sports tourism is whatever we do, we need to make sure that it shines the best light possible and helps visitors make a decision to come back.
Yeah.
And so I think having those three venues all in one place, those visitors who are coming in for this race will say, you know what, I want to come back for vacation.
Yeah.
I want to see what it's all about when I'm not racing.
Yeah.
So it's a perfect opportunity.
I want to jump ahead in my question some since we're talking about it. How many people do you expect to come in for these events?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at about 1,900 plus athletes throughout the week. And so it's 6 days of racing, again, 3 unique venues. When you start putting some numbers behind what that could look like from an economic impact perspective, I think we're somewhere in the $2.2 million range. So that's a lot of heads and beds.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people in our restaurants, shopping, attractions, things like that. And what's really been cool about it is the ripple effects that these events have, right? it's not just about the event. It's about these little things that happen as a result of the event. And so we're starting to see the community come out in ways that I would never have imagined, wanting to do, socials on Tuesday night, on non-race nights, doing fun things for the riders and to really welcome visitors. And so that's really been cool to see.
Yeah, that is really cool. And these events aren't just for the pros. There are amateur and elite. The marathon's one of them that has the amateur and elite courses out at Carvins Cove. So other than distance, is there a difference between those two courses?
Yeah, there usually can be technical elements, so like more challenging elements to the courses that you may throw in. We do throughout the week have both at Elmwood and at Explorer Park, we have kind of non-championship races. The USA Cycling program is designed to kind of develop and foster athletes further into the sport, but not everybody's doing that. Some folks just want to get rowdy on Thursday night at short track, and that's their thing, and I'm here for that. So we do have some non-championship races as well that are available to folks. But generally, you're going to see the more sort of higher up in the rankings the course gets, the more feature rich it will be. So at Explorer Park, we've built in a little over a mile of new trail, and we've built a section of drop features. So one of the drops is about a 6 foot from flat to ground that you kind of need to have a skill set for that.
John and I aren't going to do that one.
We'll take pictures.
1 out of 3 ain't bad. 1 out of 3 ain't bad. 30% of us will take the drop line. But those kinds of things are available in those professional courses, and they're already seeing a ton of use. I mean, last week we had a youth cycling camp, a racing focused youth cycling camp here for 55 young riders from really throughout the Mid-Atlantic, and we were tearing that stuff up in a good way. Burning it up in a good way. We were using it just right. That's one of those things, is that these features that are really permanent are sort of a lasting legacy to the event, and hopefully to keeping the event here for longer.
Yeah, I know you have a 2-year contract for the event, so it's this year and next year. Is that right?
Right now, we're going to work hard on making sure we deliver above and beyond what we ever said we would, and turn that 2-year into a 4-year. But one of the things I think Gordon was about to touch on was partnering with the right people like USA Cycling. They were able to allow where $10 of the athlete's registration will come back to the foundation, VBR Foundation, so we can use that to help with maintenance of those trails down the road. So things like that, when you see programs of sports tourism focus that are starting to give back to the community in different ways, that's where you've hit the sweet spot. And so we're really excited about that and some other opportunities.
Yeah, no, it's good, because I know Carvins Cove has had those trails for a long time out there, but to be able to get fresh money in, and obviously Explorer Park's doing some new things. Very excited, and Elmwood Park put in some new things as well. So to have that new money continue to come in to make those changes and really establish Roanoke as a cycling hub, because it has been growing here, because Roanoke College within the past few years added a cycling team.
It's kind of neat to see it grow. Everything from Team 2028 now to Roanoke College, and just that momentum that's happening here. I mean, people are pedaling as hard as they can to make sure, do you like that? To make sure that continues. And really, from a visitor perspective, there is a high value for safe biking cities and well-received cycling cities. And so we really want to make sure we're doing what we can to provide that experience for those folks.
Yeah, bikes is one of those things that kind of has no downside to it. If you have somebody biking to work, well, that's one less vehicle. If you have somebody, riding with their kids while they're outside and they're communicating and they're being healthy, show me a downside to bike infrastructure and bike culture. There's really no downside. And so it's exciting that we kind of have been swirling this critical mass in the Roanoke Valley for a long time. And now we kind of have this really cool pinnacle experience of we're the national championship city. That's pretty cool. So
we'll get some signs up to rival all of Salem's championship city signs.
Hey, we all have our thing here in Virginia's Blue Ridge.
That's right.
Yeah. Championship region all around.
That's right.
Valley. I like that.
Yeah. And we've kind of gotten back to some, beginner cycling stuff, and a lot of our listeners probably aren't regular mountain bikers. So as we wrap up the episode, if someone's getting inspired by all these races and seeing all these trails and wants to get into mountain biking, What are good trails in the region for people who are just starting out?
I think that the lower trails at Carvins Cove are really, really awesome. They don't have a ton of elevation to them. They go into some beautiful areas. They have a ton of wildlife. I mean, riding out there last week in 3 hours, we saw a bald eagle, we saw bear cubs, we saw snakes, we saw squirrels and deer and the whole thing. So the lowers at Carvins Cove are really awesome. It does require a parking pass, but that money goes into preserving that space, and you can buy it online. It's super easy to do. I would say Carvins Cove's lowers. Mill Mountain is right here, and there's Blue Cow ice cream at the bottom of the mountain. So you don't have the best day, you just follow gravity to Blue Cow. Like, there's lots of options there.
Yeah. And then any tips for beginners when they're getting out on the trail?
I'd say be patient with yourself. Like, this is mountain biking is a lot of timing. It's a lot of coordination. Be patient with yourself. Like, enjoy the time. Don't expect that you're going to go out and you're just going to nail it and you're going to be sending big drops in that first one. You may. Some people take right to it like fish in water. But be patient with yourself. Like, experience all parts of it and have fun. Yep. Yeah,
I will just plug Explore Park one more time, because they do host skill clinics out at Explore Park. Yeah. And on August 16th, I believe, is their next beginner mountain biking skill clinic.
Very cool.
It's good to have people out there to give a little guidance if you.
Yeah, we do tend to see bikes as kind of like, oh, I know how to ride a bike, like no big deal. But some skills instruction goes a long way. So that August 6th date sounds awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Gordon and John, for coming on to the podcast. It was great to hear all the behind the scenes of what goes on to bring mountain biking to the Roanoke Valley.
You are so welcome. We still need volunteers and things to help us pull this thing off. Definitely.
Visit VBR.com. You'll see a volunteer landing page. We need a great way to see it up close.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah. No better spectator in the house.
If you like this episode, be sure to share it. And be sure to check out one or several of the events happening July 14th through the 20th in Roanoke City and Roanoke County.